Yo, yo, everybody, what is up? Physical therapist, Dr. Rand Welton, coming to you from just outside the Tampa Bay area. If you are new to following me, I have a clinic where, like most people, have failed everything type thing, and I get exceptional results in this, what I call a failed everything clinic, because that's what a lot of people say to me when they come in here. Um, and the kicker is I developed protocols and methods that I published in statistically historic papers in the field of orthopedics and in medicine in general, getting multiple times even what AI says the biggest journals in the world for medicine are getting 3 to 5 years post publication. So I pin that analytics to my social media channels. And you can read that on my website, weltonmethods.com. I also have a school group right here that you can click underneath and sign up for my school group. And that is my VIP group. Okay. And I'm teaching more stuff than I do out here online in that group. Okay. And then I also have my advanced clinical mentorship where I get 59% off all my courses, plus live weekly teachings and Q&A. And then I have my hybrid business clinical mentorship where I show you how I get people out of pain immediately. No sales techniques. I just, people trust me because I got them out of pain. I show them what's wrong, but I develop protocols. So I have people all over doing it now. So anyways, we work with the chronic pain world. It's not that, it's not that difficult. If you ask me, most people, it's the same thing usually all day long. SI joint, sacral torsion shear, rib head misalignments, stuff that doesn't show up on x-rays and MRIs. I'll treat headaches, stress related, I call them stress injuries, neck tension, headaches, TMJ, stuff like that was something that didn't show up on x-rays and MRIs, and you had to like understand what was happening in order to help that. So in this clinic, so it's basically the same thing all day long. Now, people will come in with shoulder impingement, but that's not why they signed up with me, because I don't take insurance, cash-based clinic. And it's it's expensive to see us in these cash-based clinics, but we also have invested like an insane amount of time and energy to becoming excellent clinicians, and people will pay for that. They want that, people that say, oh, nobody's going to go out of network for insurance and not near me. I'm like, there are people out there that are desperate for someone that knows what they're doing, that I hear them in here all day long. I've tried this, I've tried this, I've tried this, I've tried every day. Just about every day I hear this story. I call it the story. It's not, so anyways, I teach you how to everything, how to target, how to bring them in, how I relieve their pain, the whole business model. And in the end, it's a one therapist or more if you want, one therapist, 7-figure model. Anyways, okay, so let's talk about, let me get my bone model here. Okay, so SI joint dysfunction rehab. I published statistically historic papers that are getting multiple times what even the biggest journals in the world get. Okay. And I called my first paper Root Cause of SI Joint Dysfunction. That was the name of it. Okay. I basically have an SI joint sacral clinic, and it's a chronic low back pain clinic, and I treat mechanical issues all day. And this is what I treat. So in the paper, I propose that it's caused by an upslip and or outflare of the pelvis. Okay, so I pull on their leg, make sure they have never had hip surgery. I pull on their leg, I lay them on their side and gap open the outflare of the pelvis. Okay, I'm talking about it in the VIP group. Click below in the school group. Go to my school group, SKOOL school group, and I'm talking about this and showing videos on how I do this, how do I realign SI joints and get my patients out of pain. So I realign their SI joints, and then I find that they usually have sacral rotation almost always in my patients, like that. It's a piriformis strength asymmetry. If you put them in a 90-90 test and test their left piriformis, it's usually pretty strong. You test their right one with people with this condition, and it's like a 3+, 4- out of 5 type thing. And when you have that, you get an asymmetry and then the sacrum twist. So I wrote a paper called Root Cause of Sacral Torsion Shear Anterior Sacral Tilt. The way that they teach this in school was the hardest thing for me to do about writing that paper, trying to figure out how they're teaching this. And I have been a therapist 20 years. And for me to accurately make the diagnosis of how they teach it in school, I don't think I can make that diagnosis. And I do sacrums all day long. But in the paper and in my courses and what I teach, I propose that all you really need to know is which way the ILA dips, which thumb. And it's almost always, I don't know why, it's almost always the left thumb. And you could just check it in a 90-90 piriformis. And with the left thumb dipping, you will have a right weak piriformis. So you have a strength asymmetry. And you strengthen the right piriformis only to bring that back. Those sacral shear and torsion patients can get pain at the base of their spine and sitting. They'll complain they'll take their hand and go along the border of their tailbone, their butt. Why does that hurt? Is because I don't like the term piriformis syndrome. I don't believe that, to me, is a term like chronic pain. Like, great, what's causing it? Now you can get a nerve issue and have piriformis pain, right? Like a herniated disc in your back. But what I find in here is that when their tailbone twists, then the insertion, the origin of the piriformis attaches right there. So when it twists, it irritates it. So when you just twist it back, and when you do, then the person, if it's the problem, usually stands up and like, yeah, no, I don't have the pain anymore. Boom. Now you figured it out. Now, I found that also it can radiate up the spine. It can ache, okay, across their whole back with a sacral shear. So the torsion is causing the shear, okay? So read my papers, enjoy my group. I posted them in my group. But, okay, now, there's only a few, don't worry about getting these patients better. It's not something I think about because I've been doing this 20 years. I develop protocols and I just work with my protocols and troubleshoot them sometimes, but it's usually the same issues, But what in the world of SI joint, I do about 140 of these rehabs a year, we'll say, SI joint low back rehabs. And there will be about 5 every year that I call long haul SI rehab. It is the hardest thing that I do. And these people will strengthen and strengthen and strengthen and strengthen their adductor group to open up the out flares. If you read my paper, I propose it's caused by an upslip and or out flare. The upslip usually comes down for me in about 5 weeks. Usually earlier than that, but we'll say 5. And then they have out flares from adductor weakness, okay? And they're pinching in the back like that, and you have to bring it like that. Now, these 5 patients a year, it's like the bane of my existence trying to get these groin muscles strong. They go high up in weight. The average person is 10 to 20 pounds to get their adductor strong enough to open up the out flare. But these people need to go way up. And at a certain point, I find usually around 50 to 70%, they plateau. And it's like they keep adding weight, but they're not getting any stronger. And you can lay them on their side and break them. And they have like a 3+ out of 5 adductor strength. It's like, what on earth? Where is this strength going type thing? You know what I'm saying? So those can be very difficult, what I call long haul SI joint rehab. But when you start getting into, I would say late 50s, but not so much, early 60s patients, they will have hip arthritis. And I don't have x-ray vision. Now, I usually will put them in a 90-90, internally rotate and lock their femoral acetabular joint out and ask them, does it reproduce any of this pain? First, I clear the SI because you can get hip pain from SI joint referred pain pattern. That's common. And it usually, because it's a referred pain mechanical issue, I find my patients in here tell me that it's just stumped everybody type thing. Now, when it comes to their, when it comes to hip arthritis, okay? When it comes to hip arthritis, this can be very difficult and sometimes impossible to treat. And the reason why, to stabilize their SI joints. And the reason why is because if you think about what hip arthritis is it's bone on bone, right? Now, some people will fool me. Like on evaluation, they have no symptoms of hip arthritis, tests are negative, and I open up their SI joints, boom, all their back pain, hip pain, groin pain, leg pain goes away, right? And I'm like, yeah, no, it's SI joint, right? But then, especially people in their early 60s, it starts. You start to have them do the A, B, and A deduction as part of my SI rehab. And what they're doing is taking their femoral acetabular joint and just grinding it. Okay. And when they start to grind it, they start saying, my hip hurts, and my groin hurts, or, my butt hurts down, like way down in here, this the posterior, like down in there. And I'm like, no, because you can't really predict them if the tests are negative clinically, but when they get into the rehab, it can be very difficult and sometimes impossible. There have been a couple of times that I've started the rehab with people, and we're stabilizing their SI joints, right? They're doing the exercises, and then they start complaining of this hip pain, and they're in their 60s, and it's like, no, like they got hip OA, and when they got hip OA, then they physically can't do these exercises, like they can't do it. It just hurts them too much. So, there's some kind of gel that is being tested around the world now, which looks promising, but these people typically have to get their hip replaced and then they can do their exercise type thing, but you don't know it because they fool you on evaluation. I had 2 this year, no symptoms. I realigned their SI joints, boom, all of their pain is gone, right? Hip, groin, all of it. Boom, okay, well, that's SI joint. No hip arthritis symptoms. They will lock out, no, nothing. We get into the rehab, and then they start complaining of hip pain. And I'm like, I open up their SI joints to see it's referred. No, pain's still there. And and then I lock their hip out again. Boom, it hurts. Well, what they did was they flared the whole thing up, doing AB and AD deduction, which you have to do, in my protocol to stabilize these things, So these can be extraordinarily difficult to treat, if not impossible. Now, after I noticed in my patients that after a hip replacement, you can have an incidence. I noticed a higher incidence in my patients of SI joint dysfunction itself. They either threw the physics off of the femoral acetabular joint or threw it out during surgery. I don't know what is happening, but what I know is that, that I rehab them, but do not pull on their leg. Anybody with hip surgery, before I ever pull on someone's leg for the realign the upslip, I always ask, have you ever had hip surgery? Because if you pull on a leg of somebody that has had hip surgery, they're going to the emergency room immediately. Okay, you're going to dislocate their hip. No bueno. Okay, so anyways, never pull on their hip. You pull on the alar. I'll show you in another video. You pull on the alar at that point. Okay, so those are extraordinarily difficult SI rehabs, but sometimes they surprise you. No clinical symptoms in the beginning, and then the next thing you know, they're complaining of hip pain. And you find it, I find in their early 60s it starts. And you have to be very careful because then you start the rehab and you can't finish the rehab because they're in so much hip pain, So anyways, that's that. But if you want to join my school group, I talk more in depth. It's my advanced free group. Click below, school group. And or go to my website, weltonmethods.com. Go to join my VIP inner circle. And the drop down, it's at the bottom. And I have my advanced clinical mentorship. I have my business mentorship, my cash-based clinic mentorship, and everything. So that's that. But other than that, I am out. Peace. Love you all.